All right, we got a little behind on the other lessons. We're moving on to 4, and then you'll get a break. Now, the next thing that we're locked up in. Okay, we've been locked up in unbelief. We've been locked up in sin. We've been locked up in vanity. One more lockup, divine lockup, that we want to get. Corruption. By the way, if you don't know what that is, just don't wear your deodorant. We've been locked up in corruption. Okay? It'll smell like the morgue if you don't take a bath for a while. Because we've been locked up in corruption. Now listen to this. Paul uses a phrase in Romans 8:21. Again, I want to get you the book. Okay? The videos will be online so you can watch this again. But Romans 8:21 Paul uses this phrase, the bondage of corruption. Just like we've been shut up and bound in unbelief and sin and vanity, we've been locked up in the bondage of corruption. It started in Genesis chapter 2, in verse 17. God said, I'll read you the King James first. God said, the day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. King James. Let's write that up on the board. KJV, surely die. I always forget if it needs the E. There we go. Surely die. I always spell it wrong. Surely die. That's what's going to happen. You know, the interesting thing is, this word's not in the Greek. Excuse me, Hebrew. It's not there. In fact, what happens, the word die, which is, we spell it in English this way. This is the word die, muff. In fact, the Greek says, in the day that you shall eat thereof, muff, which is die. Now, some translators, like the King James and many translations, are confused by the use of the word death twice in this statement of God. So they come to the conclusion that it must mean that God's making an emphasis. Like, you're going to die. You know, well, what the heck does Adam know about death? I mean, why does he need that emphasized? Okay, so what they do is they translate the first death or die as surely, and the second one is die, so as to emphasize it's surely going to take place. But listen to the way that all the literal translations translate it. Here's young. And in the day you eat thereof, in dying thou dost die. Green, in dying you shall die. Concordant, to die shall you be dying. Debar, to die will you die. The Exegesis Bible, in dying you die. The idea of God in the command is that the day, here's the problem we have with this translation too, by the way, is the day Adam ate of the tree, he surely didn't die.
Right, yeah.
What happened? Adam's still walking around. Oh, it's because one day with the Lord's 1,000 years, 1,000 years, one day, and he didn't live to be 1,000. You know, we're scrambling all the scriptures to get the answers. You know what happened? The day Adam ate that fruit, he was immortal. The death process started in him. And death is not just the conclusion of life. It's not just, let's say it this way. Death is not just the end state. Death is the process which leads to the state of death. And the moment we're born, we're in the dying process. And the more that time goes on, corruption and decay. That, by the way, that word says that we're bound, we're in the bondage of corruption. That definition of that Greek word is decay. And rot. We're rotting. Day by day.
You're rotten.
You're rotten. Almost every morning I try to get as cleaned up as I can. Put deodorant on and some smelly stuff. And go through the dyeing process another day. And by the way, if you want to see this process, then go to a nursing home and just walk up and down the corridors of a nursing home and watch the bondage of corruption working its way. You can even smell it, in these poor folks. The same thing's happening to us. They're further down the corruption road. Bondage. You know what? The doctors are never going to get us out of this. The scientists are never going to get us out of this bondage. The faith healers are never going to get us out of it. I'm afraid to tell you that despite all the doctors and all the medicine and all the scientists and all the faith healers, the death rate remains one apiece. In dying you shall die. Paul has an interesting word. This is the short one. There's 5 lessons. I just finished 4 a minute ago. This is a very short 4th lesson, which is going to take us right into the next one. And there's a verse. Philippians chapter 3, verse 21. You know what Paul calls this body? The body of our humiliation. That's concordant. The body of our humiliation. How many times have you been humiliated by your body? You look in the mirror, you're humiliated. You try to say a compliment to someone, and instead you insulted them. You didn't mean to. Your body humiliated you. Sometimes I get humiliated just by the curb on the street. I'm stumbling around and you're looking around and anybody see me do that? It's the body of our humiliation. King James says, our vile bodies. The definition of, well, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and hit that. Figure out which part we want to get. We're going to get that in the next session. King James says this. Listen, there's nothing vile about your body. It's the temple of the Holy. It's God's temple. Right. It's God's temple. He lives here. Nothing vile about it. But this body is very humiliating, humbling, lowly. In fact, let me give you this word. The word for humiliation is tapanosis. And I was surprised. I don't ever remember looking the word up. This word that gets translated vile in the King James Bible. I don't remember looking it up. Maybe did. Listen to the Strong's definition of humiliation. Depression in rank and feeling. Being made low. Do you ever feel depressed? You're in bondage to a body that's in depression. In feeling and in rank. In being low. It's decaying. It's corrupting. I mean, the bondage we're in, you have to take pills for. People take pills for depression in their feelings. People take pills for the depression in their immune system and in their decay. We start off, we're not taking anything. And then we're taking this and that, and then we're taking that and that to combat that drug. And it is, wow, and we're surprised. Mary's depressed. Oh my God, she is? Yeah, she's on the planet. And she's subjected to unbelief and sin, vanity and corruption. It's depressing. Yeah. You know, we don't mean to make light of this. It's a sad thing. And there are people who they just can't take it anymore. You just can't take it anymore. Because this vile, here it is. Listen though. Listen to the definition of vile. Morally despicable and abhorrent. The temple of God is morally despicable? That was Webster's definition of vile. Here's Oxford definition. Morally bad and wicked. Here's American Heritage. Morally depraved. You know, Paul's not talking about, he knows how to talk about sin and vanity and all that stuff. Now we're just talking about humility. We're just talking about being low. Low physically and emotionally and spiritually and just corrupting and dying. This process. But by the way, and I'll tell you exactly where this vileness came from. That's in a lot of our translation. It comes from Gnostic theology, which has two gods, God and Satan, good and evil, and spiritual and physical. And everything physical is evil. You're evil, you know. And in fact, again, our body is his temple. So, but you know the wonderful thing? Let me read you the whole verse. Because just like everything else we've been looking at, it's not the end.
Right.
This bondage of corruption is not the end. Because let me read the whole verse to you. Because the creature itself shall be the creature shall be delivered from the body of corruption in the glorious liberty of the children of God. Deliverance. Isn't that wonderful? Deliverance is just what it sounds like. The definition is to liberate, to make free. In fact, in the Concordant, it's translated free. And in Young's and Rotherham's, that we're freed from the bondage of corruption. Right now, all of humanity is in unbelief, sin, vanity, and corruption. And God's going to change the whole story. And every one of these are going to go away. All in His time. And now for the final session, and then that'll give us the time we need to do the other things we want to do today, is, you know what? 5 minutes. Stretch. I don't want you to go to sleep. 5 minutes, go to the bathroom, stretch, and then we'll hit this last